Welcome back to the Chirosation, where I interview chiropractors about their experiences in early practice. The conversations that I'm sharing on this platform are ones that I wish I had access to before I graduated, and also ones that I want to have now to enhance my experience as an early graduate. The intention of the Chirosation is to provide resources and a community that will help chiropractors realize their innate potential. So join the Chirosation today. Today, I have a conversation with Dr. Jerome Alderson from Titirangi Family Chiropractic. The overarching theme of this episode is the freedom that chiropractic offers if you know what you want. We discuss his journey as an associate in Ireland and why he chose to come back to New Zealand and start his own practice. Jerome shares the lessons he has learnt during this process and what tweaks he would make to have the process run more smoothly if he was to do it again. It was a pleasure catching up with Jerome, and I learnt so much from talking with him. So, without further ado, welcome to the Chirosation, and this is where the conversation starts. We are live. This is the Chirosation with Jerome from Titirangi Family Chiropractic. Welcome. Thank you so much for being on today. And he's going to be talking with us about what it's like being 3.5 years out from graduation.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Pleasure, man. So, first things first, what got you into chiropractic?
My experience initially was when I finished high school, I really had no idea what I wanted to do in life. Actually, I did. I wanted to be an actor, and I moved to London to audition for like a big drama school over there, and then that didn't work out. So I was kind of working out like what I wanted to do. I ended up talking to like a whole bunch of people wherever I went, and I'd ask them what they did and why they did it and if they liked it or not. And most people out there, like 90% of the people I talked to were like accountants, or they did a really like boring job which they hated. And so people would tell me these stories of, you know, their work, and it sounded terrible. And I was like, how am I going to find something that I want to do? And then I met a chiropractor in Birmingham in the UK, and it's a great chiropractor called Steve Swain. And he just started telling me about all these stories with his work and what he did, and you know, little old ladies who'd come in like bent over using a walking frame, and they'd leave like their walking stick behind when they left and walk out bolt upright and things like that. So that was quite inspiring for me, to be able to take it anywhere in the world, to use your hands, just the simplicity of what he did, but the results and the way he could change people's lives was something that just stood out to me. And so it was just one of those moments where you go, oh, okay, I could do that. And I looked into it, and the good thing about it was that the more I learned from then on out, and the more I discovered about it, the more I got excited about it as well. So I went to chiropractic school without ever having been adjusted or ever having really been to see a chiropractor in practice, just having heard about like stories of it. So it was quite a big learning curve, but definitely a good experience of it.
That's awesome. So over in London,
Birmingham.
Birmingham.
Oh yeah.
To then chiropractic school in New Zealand. How did that transition happen?
Well, I was looking into maybe doing something in the UK when I was over there, but because I went to high school and grew up in New Zealand, all my qualifications would have been a real pain to kind of study in the Welsh College or anything like that. And I was looking around at different schools, and whatever I wanted to do, I knew I wanted to go to the best kind of school for it. I didn't want to go to some kind of, you know, random little dodgy place where I'd only kind of be taught half the stuff I need to know. I was like, if I'm going to do something, I want to do it properly. And so that's kind of how the New Zealand College stood out as being quite well known and quite respected for what they did. So
shout out NZCC.
Shout out NZCC. Very good job.
Good. Very cool. So then obviously studied, crushed it, got through it, graduated, and then what did you do afterwards?
So after I graduated, I was like, what do I do now? Like, I've travelled so much in my life that I felt that I could really live and work anywhere in the world, and I kind of wanted to head back to the UK because I'd had such a good experience over there, but I didn't want to have to sit all the UK board exams again, because I'd just come and finished all my finals at NZCC, and I was just like, I'm so overstudying and stuff from there. So looked into jobs in Australia, had some interviews over there, but decided that Australia wasn't really my thing. And then a job came up in Ireland, and it was looked like an interesting job, going right into a patient base. And the good thing about Ireland is there's no registration exams or anything. It's unregulated in Ireland, which is a bit of a downside, but it means that you can go over there and work without even being a chiropractor. So it's a bit easy to get into. There is a really good association, Chiropractors Association there, which are really pushing for regulation and stuff. So if you go over there, you want to make sure you're part of the association and that you're involved with them. But as opposed to some other countries, it was very easy to get set up to. So I found a job in County Kerry, in a little town on the west coast of Ireland, and moved out there once again without like any idea of what I'd face or what I'd find, and was quite surprised, I guess, when I flew in, because you fly into this tiny little airport in the middle of, well, not the middle, on the west coast of Ireland, and there's just nothing there. There's like a tin shed is the airport, and that's all it was. And you drive through this little town, and it's like, oh, there's maybe, largest town in the county, and it's still like, an eighth of the size of Auckland, if not smaller, just with no one about. And also, Ireland at the time, and it still is pulling itself up out of that kind of recession, out of the 2008, hit from there. So there was still, you could look around you and you can still see there's a certain amount of stuff hanging on from that kind of time of recession, with boarded up buildings and shops and housing estates completely empty and things like that. So it's quite an interesting environment to be kind of dropped into, right on the other side of the world from home. So that was my first job as a chiropractor, and an interesting environment. So I only actually lasted in that job for maybe 3.5-4 months, and got the better of me, and I had to move on. So there's an interesting story around that.
Don't leave us hanging. You've got to share what happened. What happened?
Well, when you leave college, you're very headstrong, and looking back, I was very headstrong, and I thought, you think you know everything. Or at least if you've got a good
you do know everything.
I do. I'm pretty sure I know everything about anything. But I had thought I had pretty good grasp. When you do, they give you all the basic skills of what you need to learn. But I went to this job, and there are just some things that didn't work right from the outset, and I probably should have realised that earlier, and probably should have actually been a bit more sensible about not just diving into something without knowing kind of what it's really about. But it's hard, if you're applying for a job in a different country, like how do you judge whether or not you're going to get on with your boss or anything like that? So what I found in that job was I turned up, and the chiropractor who ran the business, lovely lady, but she really wanted someone to practice in exactly the same way as she did. So that was her goal, is to make sure that I was doing everything exactly the same as her, because that way she could step out of the office and all her patients or whatever could come see me if they needed to, and she'd be confident to know that I'd be doing exactly the same thing. And that came down to, we'd have all these sessions where we'd do all these checking sessions, and she'd be like, oh, using a bit too much pressure, like when you're checking someone's back. I don't use that quite amount of pressure, and you can't really adjust L5 because I've had some bad experiences adjusting people's L5 before, so I only adjust L1 to L3, and this is how I adjust it, and this is how you're going to adjust it. And it was from very early on, it was very constrictive, because she wanted me to practice and adjust people and touch people and communicate with people in exactly the same way as her. And so right from the outset, it was like I was being squeezed into this box, and it wasn't very healthy for me because I couldn't express who I was and what I wanted to do. I couldn't adjust people, shake people the way I wanted to or had been taught to adjust. It was all very different. So there was kind of that immediate pressure to work on people in a specific way. And it also meant that I wasn't as safe as well, because whereas normally if you're checking someone, especially if you've been doing it a while, your intuition comes into it as well, and you know when you can back off and when you don't. But if the expectation that a chiropractor has of you is that you always manually adjust someone's pelvis, you manually adjust their mid-back, you adjust 2 places in their thoracic, you adjust 2 places in their neck, and if that's their expectation that you do with someone on every single visit, then when it comes to a point when you don't want to do that, or you think maybe I should leave this area alone, or maybe I do want to adjust L5, then there's a disconnect between what you're doing, what you think you should do, and that's not always the best for the patient as well. So that was a bit of a challenge, and there are a few other things around it that we didn't quite see eye to eye on. And to be honest, living in a completely different country in the middle of nowhere, where like a small little country town where I didn't have any friends or anything like that, it was challenging to kind of feel really upbeat and really excited about that position. So it came to like three or 4 months. We sat down, we had a chat, and we were both basically like, this isn't working. And I was like, great, this is fine. Like, I'm happy to move on. Like in our contract, it's like a month or so here, like resignation period, and that'll give me time to look around, find a new job. I've just like moved into a new apartment. It'll be time to like finish up my lease there and do stuff. And they turned around and said, no, we want you to leave today. And this is the last time that we're happy to have you around. And I was like,
that's a bit tough.
That's a little bit tough.
Yeah.
And that threw me for a while. So I walked out of the office going, wow, what do I do? Like I had a job like the last hour now. Like I don't have anything, and I don't have anything lined up, and I don't know where I'm going to go. And I'm in
a small town in
Ireland in the middle of nowhere. But again, it's a life lesson. It's one of those things that you learn, and you gotta. I mean, I look back on it now. I'm like, you know what? That was tough at the time, but it taught me a lot. And I, from where I went from there on out, like it was a positive move. So I ended up hopping my car, getting rid of my apartment, luckily, and did a big road trip for like a month. And by the end of that road trip, I met up and hung out with a whole bunch of my friends, which was really good time. And I came back to Dublin, and I found a job in downtown central Dublin with an Australian chiropractor who'd been working for maybe 20 or 30 years, like a really guy who knew his chiropractic and he knew his philosophy, and he was an amazing adjuster, and he was also just doing his own thing. Like he was his own character, so had his own quirks and things like that, but he was happy for me to come in and do my own thing and have free reign of his practice and learn from him and suck all the knowledge that I could out from him. But there wasn't any of that high expectation of what he wanted me to be or how he wanted me to adjust or anything like that. So it was for me, going from one environment to that was very kind of freeing. And I was like, wow, this is actually, if I didn't have that, I think I would have been turned off chiropractic, pretty early on, but because I managed to find someone who was a bit of a mentor and did have all that experience just to give, and was around, I feel very grateful for that kind of experience.
That's awesome. What an interesting transition to fly from one extreme to
Cool. So it was a big jump from one place to the next.
And how long did you end up staying in the second practice?
So I ended up staying there for maybe 8-9 months.
Cool.
And that's, again, it's a very different practice. It was building something from scratch, really. There are a few people, whereas the first practice I went into, I was seeing people right off the bat. So financially, it was a big change, and living in Dublin as well, it's kind of a bit of a balancing act. But again, that teaches you other things as well. And so that was around for 8 months. I could have stayed longer, but it got to a point where the profession in Ireland was having a bit of trouble getting their insurance sorted. So they were given a quote. I think the final quote that they were given from the insurance company who provided all the indemnity insurance was something silly like 2,500 or 3,000 euros for a year of insurance. And I was like, I could buy a flight for cheaper than that and go back home and set up something. And I was kind of ready to kind of, one thing that it did do, that whole experience, was help me clarify in my mind where I wanted to be, what things I valued, and in some small way the direction I wanted to practice with chiropractic. And it reinforced as well the fact that it was something that I could do myself without relying on other people to kind of walk me through it or jump right into a busy practice. Like, that whole experience was quite empowering in a way to kind of give me a kick up the butt to do something myself. So yeah.
That's awesome. So obviously you've bought a flight back to New Zealand, and then you found this practice soon afterwards?
Not straight away. So I came back to Auckland, and I started work for a lovely lady in Grey Lynn, but I always knew that I wouldn't be working for someone else for too long. I've kind of gone past that point. There are too many things that other people did that I didn't like, or I thought could be done better. Like, wherever I went, I'd be like, there's some good things about this practice, and it obviously suited them, but there's too much that didn't suit who I was. So there's an element that was always kind of like, I'm definitely going to set up something when the right time arises and when the right place arises. So I worked there for a bit. I found a small shared office down in New Lynn, which is part of like a holistic kind of health building, which was super cheap. Like, it was, I think it was based off how many people I saw. So they'd take a portion of the fees from the visits of people who came to see me. So I wasn't really paying anything for that. It was only people booked in to see me. And then I could start building up my equipment and buying a table and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden found this office here, and it was the perfect office at the perfect time, and very cheap, and a beautiful office and beautiful space. So
really nice space.
Really nice space.
Really cool. Beautiful view.
Thank you.
Looking out on trees in the ocean from where we're
sitting. The ocean, yes. I've got to say, like, there are a lot of nasty chiropractic offices. Like, there are very few chiropractors that I've seen who have like good taste. That's not me being me. I'm not trying to be big-headed or saying that I have particularly great taste or anything like that. But when you see dark and dingy offices with old, run-down furniture and random colours splashed across the wall, there are some offices that I see which are just like absolutely stunning, and I'm just like, wow, I'm so impressed by what people do put together. And there are a few of those out there, and they're getting better. People are getting better, but especially some of the older chiropractic offices, you're like, I'm sure you do have a little bit of money sitting in your account. You could probably splash out a little bit and make this a new paint job. So no, we were very lucky to find this place. Right office, right time, and very soon it became clear that if I wanted to really build this place up, I needed to be around more often. So I ended up finishing up the job in Grey Lynn, just because it freed up my time to be here and put more energy and time into the office. And the good thing about this office, we were talking about earlier about costs and things like that, super low overheads.
So key.
Which is amazing. So from week one, from the day we opened, we were making money because we had to see 4 people a week to cover all our expenses. And 4 people a week especially if you're growing up in Auckland and you have a few friends, it's not too hard to get 4 people in every week to cover your costs.
Yeah.
So we were very, very lucky to be able to not be in a space where we had a whole bunch of debt and pressure hanging over our heads to do anything with. So and then it's all been an exciting journey from there.
Yeah, just chipping away, getting better.
Chipping away. Yeah, I mean, like for me, to be honest, I've never been particularly driven by money. And, I think that, money is something that I like to feel like I'm being appreciated for what I do if I'm offering something good and if I'm giving it my all, because I like to be busy and I like to do the best job I possibly can. But it's not something that drives me. And so very early on, you have to figure out if that's not something that drives you, what is, what's going to drive you to keep doing this job as opposed to doing anything else, and what's going to drive you to get up in the morning and put in a few hours of work when you don't have to, and when you can sleep in if you want. So it's been an interesting journey working out kind of what does motivate you and where you want to take it, because there are so many different places you can take it. And you can come out of college and not do any more study except to cover your CPD hours or whatever, and you've got all the technique there that you'll ever need. You don't have to take it anywhere. You could stop right there really and be fine for the next 20 years, or you could challenge yourself to be better every single day and make yourself the best person you can possibly be, and steal everyone else's golden tricks and tips and kind of put it all together and try and be the ultimate chiropractor.
Exactly. I would pick option 2.
This sounds like a good one. But it's something that no one else is going to do for you. That's the thing as well, and that's the thing you learn pretty quick as well, is that even if you find the best associateship in the world, it's all still on your shoulders. You can be they can give you, 5 or 10 new patients every single week, but if you're just like, if you're sitting back and kind of not excited about it or not challenging yourself, then you'll get bored. And that's what I found in that first job as well. Like it was, I saw like, I don't know how many hundreds of new patients over just the 3 months that I was there. It was just people would come in every day and have 2 or 3 new patients walking in the door.
Wow.
But I was bored there. Like there's no challenge, there's no drive for me to be there. I wasn't growing as a person. I wasn't expressing myself as I wanted to. And so, for all the amount of people that came in the door, I wasn't serving them at my best, I don't think, because I didn't have it all to give because there's too much else going on in my life. And so now you're in this office and it's quite a quiet spot. It's not like a totally busy hub, and you're like, wow, if I had like 3 or 4 new patients every day, I'd be buzzing. That'd be great. But like it's definitely true that you've got to get your own head sorted first. You've got to be happy with who you are, with where you are, because you can have the best associateship in the world, you can have the best job in the world, but if you're not in a place that you want to be, if you don't have all those basic needs of family and friends around you fulfilled, if you don't have a life outside of chiropractic, then to me it's not going to be the best for you in the long term. So sometimes it's a bit better to challenge yourself to take the hard road rather than the easy way.
Absolutely. Well, it's all about growth. But also, when you were talking at the beginning, something that obviously attracted you to chiropractic in the first place was its freedom.
Yeah.
So obviously that first associate position, you didn't have any. So of course you're feeling out of place. So now that you have all of the freedom, because you are your own boss and you're doing your own thing, what's kind of like the number one lesson that you learned in that first 6 months of opening your own thing? And what would you do different if you could do it again?
Well, there's lots of different things on a very kind of technical basic.
That's kind of what I mean.
Basic level, yeah. So just things like how cheaply you can set up a website, how easy it is to get onto Google Ads and AdWords, and how to get your business listed, wherever you are. how cheaply you can get an FBOS terminal, how easily you can get by without having a CA in your office, and how cheaply you can do stuff overall, but still make it nice and good. Even for however cheaply we did this place, we could have done it cheaper and quicker. And so this place was kind of like a gradual thing, one step at a time. So we opened the doors and hadn't done really any marketing, and then 3 months later we got a sign to put down outside, and then 6 months later we got a computer for the office, and then 8 months later we set up a website. And it's kind of like, if we'd done that all on day one, it would probably have been more sensible. But as it turned out, it was kind of like, oh, okay, we should probably have a website. Oh, well, we should probably try and organise some marketing events. Oh, well, maybe we can get our printing done cheaper from a bulk place rather than the local, a little niche shop down the road or whatever. So yeah, it's all been about that. But part of those things are only things you can really get from going through it. Yeah, I think,
because there's no real guidelines the how-tos of opening your own practice. There isn't one, and for me personally, I'm kind of attracted to that. Yeah. You definitely want to talk with other people and find resources to figure out, what have you done? What have you done that you've liked and not liked? Or I'll listen to that and I'll augment what I'm doing a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's kind of experiment.
Yeah, but also it's about the right place at the right time, I think, as well. Yeah. I wouldn't have been happy to set up anywhere at all. It had to be, for me, it has to be the right space. And if the space doesn't suit or doesn't work, or if it's a grimy, dingy place that's super cheap, that your overheads are going to be low, but you're going to be coming to work and kind of screwing the halogen light bulbs and kind of wiping them all from the walls, then you're not going to have the greatest experience opening up your practice, because it won't be everything you want it to. But there are plenty of cheap places out there which you can find a partner or someone to go in halves with, or find a couple of people to share it with, and just bring your costs right down. And it doesn't have to be difficult, but it is something that you can't really, it's not something you can really teach. I don't think, as long as you've got the basic skills for it, you just have to go out and do something, do it. And hopefully if it's cheap enough that if it fails spectacularly, then it won't be too much of a hit on you, or you have a backup plan, so you're working part-time for another chiropractor in the meantime, or winding down your hours with someone else. So there are ways to do it which are actually pretty risk-free, I think.
Definitely. It's just about being creative in what you want to achieve, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously you're working for another chiropractor. When you came back to New Zealand, did you have a vision that kind of looked like this?
It kind of, I wanted to practice in a specific area. I'd grown up in this area. I kind of knew it quite well. I had friends and contacts in this area as well. So I already knew that if I set up something in this area, that I'd immediately have people that would come in to see me. And that's, again, a big difference from going to a completely small town in the middle of nowhere where you don't know anyone. You're building contacts and friendships from scratch as well. So I knew that if I had a table out this way, that it wouldn't be that hard to cover expenses. So there's that element of it, I guess. What was the question again?
That's good. It's just a conversation. Just talking about stuff. Yeah. That's okay. Because for me, obviously, graduating recently, it's part of this conversation is figuring out what people have done. Because this kind of resource isn't out there. We don't know what it's like to start up a practice from scratch. And is it better to do your own thing? Is it better to have one room? Is it better to have a partnership? What is the best? Yeah. And like you just said, there's no right answer.
Yeah.
It's just figuring out what is it. And do you have that kind of mindset that you can create a space like this? Because I actually don't think this is for everybody. I think some people actually do suit associateships. Or do suit locating, for example, or filling up, other positions. Whereas some people need to start their own thing.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think there are definitely people from my year who've done amazingly well, and who've reaped the financial benefits as well of going right into a good quality associateship. But if that's your plan and what you want to do, I think you've got to be prepared to move somewhere to find that, because like you look around like Auckland for the moment, and you might want to work in Auckland, and you might want to be an associate with earning a lot of money right off the bat. You're probably not going to find all those three things right away in the place you want to be. So the people that I know who've been in the best associateships are the ones that have moved to somewhere small in Australia, a little outback town in Australia for a few years, who've gone right into a super busy practice and haven't looked back. And I think if you're prepared to do that, and if you're prepared to maybe step out of your comfort zone, maybe compromise some things like that, you can earn a lot of money, and you can see people really get really busy really quick.
Yeah, but like you said, in your first position, you walked into a practice space already.
I walked into a practice,
and that makes a complete difference, because I graduated and I walked into nothing.
Yeah, right.
So you kind of have to build it from scratch, even though you're in an associate position, and that's definitely a different skill set.
So I never really understood that, though. I've never understood why someone would walk into an associateship and be building a practice from scratch. Why not set up something yourself from scratch where you can take 100% of the profits, and actually you need to see half the amount of people that you would see in an associateship or less to be able to earn the same amount of money. So there's always like a disconnect in my mind going, I'm being a bit ripped off. I think in this associateship, and I could do things better and I could change things. But I do understand, like, there are people who don't want to think about any of the whole business side of things. That
was the point. It's like, well, also not thinking about it, but also for me, not knowing about it.
Yeah.
And I knew that if I went into my own thing straight away, which probably technically I think I could do, and financially I'm sure if I had low overheads would be achievable. But in terms of my experience, I personally didn't feel like I was ready yet.
Right.
So you start an associate, and then you can learn from the primary, as long as they're a really good one.
Yeah.
And actually are willing to teach and share.
Yeah.
But then, like you were saying before, I don't think anything is going to be perfect. You just have to try and figure out what's the best fit for now.
No, definitely. And also, like, when I first graduated as well, there wasn't like a long-term kind of plan or goal for. I knew that at some point, and I still know at some point, I want to have, like a nice big family practice that's got, all these other things attached to it that I want to kind of run, maybe like a gym or something like that as well as part of it, or like a few different businesses associated with the office as well, and have it set up in a really, really funky way. But I also knew that I just wanted to experience chiropractic, and I wanted to travel, and I wanted to glean information and knowledge from different people, and I wanted to figure out, most of all, my own self, and get to a point where I was comfortable with my own relationship with chiropractic, and my own confidence in what I did, so that whenever that final kind of vision comes to fruition, I'll kind of be ready to take it on. So you got to be aware that, wherever you are, it's all part of the journey, and things can change so suddenly as well. Like,
super quick.
The opportunity might arise tomorrow that, you're walking down the street and you see a sign in an office building for, a beautiful office that wasn't there yesterday, that's there today, and maybe it's not going to last. And, maybe if you just jump in the deep end, you might be able to swim.
Yeah, exactly. Just give it a go. So I think that's a really, really cool point. So learning more about yourself.
Yeah.
So do you feel like your practice kind of represents you in a certain way?
I think over the years I've been more comfortable to share more of myself with my clients and relax into the role of a chiropractor. I think for a long time, especially coming out of college and as a student, you don't, like when I first graduated as well, I didn't feel like a chiropractor. Because
you have no reference point.
Yeah.
Like, I'm comparing myself to Kent every day, who's been doing this for 25 years.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, but at the same time, it's nice because, like you were saying before with the guy from Germany, he doesn't in Canada.
Yeah.
He doesn't adjust everything every time. He still misses adjustments.
Yeah, exactly.
After this amount of time, it's nice to kind of see, he's not perfect. It doesn't, just because you've been practicing for 25 years, doesn't mean you're always going to be successful every time when you adjust something.
And as well, like I've had so many different people check my spine, and I know what I check for. And so if someone's checked my spine, right, like I've known in the back of my mind, well, actually, they haven't really checked L5. Like they haven't done like a real good assessment of that, or I know that they've really missed out my thoracolumbar junction because they haven't felt it. They've just jumped above and below. I'm kind of like, well, they've given me a good adjustment at T6 and a right PI and a C5 body right, but how much of that is actually what my body needed, and how much of it was them doing adjustments they're comfortable with really well. So
I mean, it's shit. That's like a conversation for another podcast. It's like, what actually is that? Because you need that interaction between your body and my body. When we interact, it's going to be different when, say, you get checked by Sally, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
Another person, and geez. That's hard. That's like whole next level. What does that actually mean? Let's jump in back where we were. So we're talking about practice. What is it for yourself? We're talking about freedom and how it's super necessary.
Well, as well, like the one thing you've got to bear in mind with this practice is that it wasn't. Didn't put it together with the idea of becoming like super rich and successful and having this practice as everything I ever wanted it to be, because I already knew it's 2 rooms, and I already knew when I walked in the door that my dream practice would have more rooms than 2. Like, it would have more space than we have now. And we are constricted for space. So, like, from the word go, it was kind of like, this is only something that's going to last until the next thing comes along. And on one level, that's kind of restricted us a bit, because you're always a bit hesitant about really diving into it and giving it your all, because you're like, well, if something comes up in a month's time or something, that I might move on and I might wrap up everything here and try something different. So that's kind of one level of it. But the good thing about it is it has been a space to kind of experiment and to play and to figure out what works and what doesn't. And kind of a risk-free way to kind of learn more about yourself and how you want to practice and what things you want to look at with patients and how you want to communicate with people. But again, like in an environment where you're working for yourself, there's not going to be anyone to say, hey, let's do a training session today and let's practice our adjustments. You've kind of got to be like, okay, maybe I should organise something for next week myself, and maybe I'll phone up a few chiropractors I know and bring them in and get them to teach me what they know and stuff. So that's just the way things work. Unfortunately, you can't sit back and expect things to be put on for you. You've got to really
you really have to go,
and you've got to find that motivation to do that as well, because there's some weeks where you've had an alright week, you made a bit of money, and you're like, well, no one's telling you to get up in the morning to go to work. You can take a couple of days off and do something different if you want, and you've got to figure out, well, especially in a place where I'm at, where I don't have the bills in my life aren't that expensive. I don't have a family to provide for or anything like that. I can, see a couple of people each week and get by and spend the rest of the time at the beach. So you've kind of got to
which
work
sounds
out,
like a pretty tough life, right?
Which is exhausting. But you've got to, at some level and at some point, depending on where you're at in life, people have different needs and have different things that they've got to be at. So I'm appreciative for what I have at this moment, because I also know that it's not going to last, and I know that there's a time in my life when I can really kind of figure out more about myself, and I can learn more about chiropractic, and I can figure out the way I want to work with people and the way I want to adjust, and I can learn from other people, because in 5 years it may all be completely different, and I may be in a place where I want to go back into an associateship because I've got other priorities in my life which are around. But the good thing about chiropractic is that we're talking a lot about freedom, it does enable that if that's what you want.
Absolutely.
Although there's always a compromise, and that's the thing. You can have freedom, but you may not have a lot of money to play with.
Yes.
If you want a big bank account, then you need to put in the hours. But if you want to get by, have a lot of time to do other things and play around, then it's also a job which can facilitate that as well. But you've got to figure out what you want first of all, and that's sometimes the biggest battle. It was for me, working out what I valued and what I wanted. And sometimes, because the conversation in chiro school can be all focused around seeing hundreds of people every week and earning a lot of money and stuff like that, sometimes you can be sucked into the idea that that's all that chiropractic is and all that it can be and all that it should be, when I think actually it's there's so many different ways you can take it. It doesn't have to be the one thing that dominates in your life. It can be, but it can also facilitate your growth as a person. It can facilitate other aspects of your life, and it can change as well throughout your life as well, how much of an impact it has on you and how much it drives you. So
and I think that's the point of chiropractic really at its core. Is it's not designed to be a thing that's potentially just a job.
Yeah.
You actually take on a lot of the different ideas behind it and apply them to your own life, and it does change who you are. I also had never been checked or adjusted before starting studying, and I didn't have any reference point of is the adjustment that I just did, does it have any merit benefit?
Yeah.
And just have no idea. And then also put it in context against other professions, so osteopathy, acupuncturists, other chiropractors in the same office, different office, physios, GPs. Is what I'm doing a benefit to the patient? Yeah. And what was your kind of process to figuring that out?
Well, I think to a degree, there's an element of that which you can only get from being out in practice and from experience.
Agreed.
There's something that even the best chiropractic school in the world will not be able to kind of give you, and that's the confidence in what you're doing is right. But for me, it was more than that. It was like I'd seen hundreds of people and adjusted them and had some good results and stuff. But the question that I had was, am I doing the very best for the patient? Am I giving them everything I can do and offering the best service out there? Because if the physio down the road is doing something that's going to help them more, then that means that what I'm doing is not as effective, it's not as good as it can be. So one thing I wanted to know, which you don't really pick up in college right away, is this person may walk in the door and be raving about the osteopath they saw last week, and I want to know, what were they doing differently? How come they the patient thought so highly of this person or that physio or something like that? And so there's a process where just as much as I'd go and ask chiropractors to observe them in practice, you can go and ask physios or sports physios or sports teams and see what people are doing for them, or take a sports physician out for lunch or something like that, and grill them on what they do and what procedures and what their rehab structure is and how often they see patients. And I think once I started doing that more and really understanding, okay, here's what a physio will do for a person who walks in their door. Here's what a GP will do for a person who walks in their door. Here's what an osteopath will do. Then I can turn back to myself and say, okay, I know what they do, but I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to do this because I know and I've seen how powerful it is. And also a lot of the other stuff that's out there, you can basically either refer people to if you know they need it, or you can say, I'm going to send you to a physio to get this kind of work done because I don't want to do it, but here's exactly what they're going to be doing. Or you can condense it into a piece of paper and say, okay, here's a whole bunch of not chiropractic, but it's physio tips and rehab notes that are going to help you get these other things. But what we're going to do here in the office is is chiropractic, which helps another element of your health and well-being and the whole healing process. So for me, until I knew everything that was out there, or at least kind of saw why people were doing what they're doing and could understand the wider context, I wasn't as confident in what I was doing. So part of it was just about pushing that kind of level of understanding and seeing what was out there.
Nice. And building confidence as well, right?
Yeah.
Because I think when you do graduate, I was confident in what I'd been able to achieve so far.
Yeah.
But then you put it in context of, well, is this good enough?
Yeah.
And especially when I'm doing this adjustment on someone, and now, I mean, they're not paying me money because I'm an associate, but they're paying money for this. Is it worth the amount that I'm charging? Yeah. And for me, that was a real head spin at the beginning to go, do I feel comfortable with this? And that was something I had to get over.
Yeah, definitely. And that's
just all came with confidence. It all came with literally being in practice.
Yeah.
And getting better at adjusting and getting better at my ability to talk and communicate with people. Yeah.
Well, the thing is as well, and this will always happen the first year or two out, especially I think if you go into an associateship, is that you'll get at least one moment, if not many, that will shake your confidence very dramatically.
Yeah.
And this is also one of the areas that people don't talk about a lot, because we like to puff ourselves up as being a really good chiropractor who is a great adjuster and everything like that, and who only helps people. But there's certain times where I haven't done the best adjustment, and for many weeks afterwards, it just completely shakes you. And if I didn't have all those records and memories of people who had been really, really helped by chiropractic, and if I didn't put my trust in what chiropractic could do as opposed to what I could do at the time, like in the principle of chiropractic and the philosophy that underlies it, then it was times when it could have walked away from the whole thing. So there's definitely things like that. Yeah,
really hard. And you just reminded me of something actually. So it was earlier this year, the NZCA put out the stats from New Zealand, and if you look at it, there's this massive gap between people who are kind of our age definitely. In terms of graduation a few years out, and then there's this really, really big gap, and then there's the next people who are like the 10 years kind of graduating kind of thing. And I didn't really think about it until now, but maybe a lot of that is people who did get disillusioned.
Yeah.
They had some really negative experience in early practice and didn't have the support or the confidence to say, I'm not the only one who's been through this.
No, definitely. And this is what you find as well, coming to the end of college as well, you get very excited because of the potential of being a really successful chiropractor.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of really, really, really successful chiropractors out there, but a lot of what, makes a successful chiropractor, I think, and a successful business is actually built off a whole bunch of failures. And because they're the things that, chiropractors don't like to talk about, because it makes us feel inadequate and it makes us feel like we're not as good as we could be. And, if everyone wants to kind of up themselves a bit and kind of talk themselves up a bit and exaggerate their patient numbers maybe just a little bit as well.
Or maybe a lot.
There's just an element of honesty sometimes that goes missing to say, actually, it is really hard, and actually you're going to have times when it will really shake you, and it's no one else is going to do the whole thing for you, and you do have to figure out what you actually want to get out of it, and you do have to figure out where you want to take it, and you do have to figure out how you want to practice and what kind of work you want to do, and you do have to figure out how you want to talk to people and how you want to explain chiropractic. And there's a whole lot of things you got to figure out, which once you've graduated, then you've all the hard stuff is over, right? Well, actually,
it's just starting.
You've got it. It's just starting. So, but that's exciting as well. It's part of part of the journey. You've got to embrace it as the journey, and as experiences which are going to help you grow as a human being and help to find your character. And because success will come out of failure one day. If it's not today,
absolutely
will happen one day.
And I mean, speak for yourself as well, but for me, yes, there are bad days. And yes, there are days which suck, or like I'm sitting in the office for 4 or 5 hours seeing no patients, and it's awful and I hate it. But 90% of the time, I'm having fun.
Yeah.
I'm doing something that I love to do. I get to hang out with cool people most of the time.
Yeah.
And, help people heal a lot of the time, which is incredible. And I'm learning a lot and growing a lot. And for me, that's what this whole experience is about, right?
Yeah.
You're growing, you're learning.
Yeah. It's all about that.
So what does the future hold for Jerome? What's next?
We'll see. We'll see where it takes me. I don't think I'm going to be in this office forever.
Yeah.
It's definitely a stepping stone to something else. But maybe a bit more travel. Maybe experience some chiropractic overseas in other countries as well. Still lots of learning to be done. But I feel like slowly I'm getting kind of my clinical skills up to scratch and kind of understanding the areas of my knowledge which may be lacking slightly, and knowing where to go to kind of build up on them. But I love what you're doing, because I think it's so important having that kind of honest and open communication with people and figuring it out. But there's so much around chiropractic. Like chiropractic, you think is all about like the adjustment with the patient, whereas in reality it's just like the last thing. That's what you kind of get paid for, but like it's like everything that comes around it is so much greater than that as well. And you've got to embrace it and still figure it out and take it one step at a time, and be ready for change when it jumps upon you, and not take anything for granted in any situation. If you've got it good, then be thankful for that. But if you've got it hard, then
figure out what you're meant to be learning and change it.
Figure out what you're meant to be learning, or up and change. So who knows what the future holds? But
you're excited about it.
Exciting.
That's very cool, and I will be following it, I bet. Yeah. So if anyone feels like reaching out to you, talking with you, contacting you, how do they do it?
You can drop me an email, just my Jerome Alderson @gmail.com. You can come visit the practice, see what we do here, check it out. If you have any questions about setting up your own practice and want to know exactly how easy and how cheap it can be, then you can talk to me. Or if you want to learn how I adjust people and some of the tricks that I've picked up, or if you want to teach me stuff, because I'm always happy to learn, that's fine as well. Just give me a buzz sometime, it's fine.
That's awesome. Jerome, thank you so much for coming on today, man. That's really, really good. And thank you so much for sharing.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for the support you've been showing this platform. If you have any ideas for future episodes, or you would like to get involved, send me a message through the website or your preferred social media. For the resources mentioned in this episode, please check out the show notes or thechirosation.com. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend and leave a comment on Facebook. Now go out there and start a Chirosation today.
'Cause I can fly.